He's pointing at me. I got the finger gun. Finger gun. Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
hello.
I think we are live because I got finger guns. Once someone can confirm they can hear me, we will get this show rolling. I see quite a few people already in chat, which is good to see. I see Niners Gaming, Depot Park, Give Me Love. That's quite the handle.
Hi, everyone.
I see Hi Brad, but I haven't heard confirmation that everyone can hear me yet. Is audio okay? All right. Yep. People can
All
see.
right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to DevStream number 222 for Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign. I'm here with my good friend Georgie. Georgie, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me once again. Excited to talk about some religion.
Talk about some religion. It's one of those topics that you never talk about usually at parties or when you're out, but we're going to talk about it all day today, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you been, Georgie?
It's been pretty all right. We were just discussing that it's snowing here almost, raining, miserable weather, but at least we're inside warm and talking about games, which is always good.
Snowing in Sofia, huh? You know what? It's like it was. Well, I just got back to Houston last night. I'm a little bit tired because I had a lot of flight. I'm sure if anyone saw the news yesterday, travel yesterday was a pain. So I was traveling yesterday and got home a little bit later than I expected. But it was 91 degrees as a high yesterday in Houston, so it was like almost summertime in October. So quite different from snow in Sofia.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's always I remember one of the few times I was in Sofia when it snowed. It was supposed to be warm, and I brought all warm or relatively warm clothes. And then like 2 days before I showed up, I think this was like in April. 2 days before I showed up, you guys had a blizzard and it was super cold.
that was a nice welcome, right?
Well, like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
It was super random. It was really pretty, but I was not prepared for it. I had like, jeans and a light jacket, and was not
And
ready for the cold weather.
Sofia is close to the mountain as well, so it can be pretty hectic sometimes.
Yeah, the mountain's beautiful. I love that mountain. I still need to go up there. I still haven't gone to the top of it yet. I need to do that one time.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, you should definitely when it's hot, or well, not hot, but just like spring weather or something like that.
I was going to mention something to you, and this is mostly for us guys, so I apologize. You just need to be a fly on the wall for a second. So I was in Savannah, Georgia, a couple weeks ago, and I was at this place, and I met someone that was from Sofia there, or from
Oh, wow.
Bulgaria there, and we talked like Bulgaria for an hour or so. Me and my fiance and this girl at this bar, and I'm like, it was just really cool to be able to say I had this connection. She's like, "Why have you been to Bulgaria? That's so random." And we just had this long conversation about Bulgarian culture and like my time working with you guys, and it was I don't know, it's very cool to have that kind of connection since I've spent so much time out there. It was kind of neat.
Nice.
I don't know how many people know Bulgarians in chat, like in the U.S. if there's any U.S. people watching, but that's the first time I think I've ever run into a Bulgarian out here. There is pretty good beer in Bulgaria. Enjoy the beer in Bulgaria.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And with all those craft beers, all of a sudden it's crazy as well. Like in many places in the world, so many breweries and stuff.
Give Me Love does not agree that the beer in Bulgaria is good. Could be fighting words.
Some of it is.
I'll tell you, the Bulgarians love. They'll also say that they're one of the most beer-loving people. That's for sure.
Definitely. Some of it is all right. Others not it, but I guess we have all right beer. It's not famous or anything like that. It's just regular.
Oh, Give Me Love's right. The Belgians, they do make good beer. Well,
Oh yeah.
As much as I'd love to turn this into a Bulgarian beer conversation, we do need to talk about religion, the best topic ever, right? So,
Yeah.
I think it was like 2 Dev Diaries ago. I want to say it's Dev Diary 20. We had our first big dive into some of the religious features of the game. We talked about it kind of at a high level. I think it'd be nice if maybe we can remind everyone a little bit about like how the clerics work and kind of what the different religions are before we dive into today's topic, which is really focused on the Christian religions, which are Catholicism and Orthodoxy. So before we get into the specifics, why don't you just give that like really quick, like 3 or 4 minute overview for anyone that maybe wasn't reading that Dev Diary. By the way, if you want to go back and look at it, Dev Diary 20 was that diary and the stream, so you can go and check that.
Yeah, definitely. Also, one thing to note when you mention beer, I think monks brew beer back in the day. So there's some tie-in right there. But yeah,
It's
the
also where I
religious.
think where whiskey came from. I think monks are the ones who invented whiskey as well. So
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah,
monks!
absolutely.
God and
uh,
alcohol. That's a, we should add that into the religious aspect of the game. Little alcohol modifiers to. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Talk about. Give us the quick
uh,
review, the summary.
That's a good, actually. Well, religions in Knights of Honor 2 are a few main ones. So today we're going to be focusing on the Christian ones, which are Catholic and Orthodox. Apart from them, there's also pagan tradition and a pagan religion and Muslim religions, which can be Shia or Sunni. So all these different religions, the main thing between them is that you can hire clerics in your court, which have different duties and different effects and
Or
different
shamans, if you're a
or
pagan.
shamans. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're basically called different depending on the religion. They're for Christians, they're clerics. For Orthodox, they're scholars. So for the Muslims, they're scholars. Then they're shamans for the pagans. And they have different governing effects, different actions which they may perform. I hope we're not gonna spoil any ones for the pagans and the Muslims right now because they're really interesting and different to what we're gonna talk about today.
They are, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and apart from that, there's also religious settlements in the game, which also grant different bonuses and may get converted depending on the origin of the province, the origin of the kingdom. So there's a lot of interactions between what type of religion your kingdom follows in its different realms. There might be instability because of that, so you might need to use clerics to convert religions. So that's one of the main actions that all religious characters can perform in the court, along with lifting the disorder from provinces that have been recently conquered or lost their belief in the ruler because of population majority disorders. So there's a bunch of main things you can interact with in terms of religion, but there's also very specific ones we're going to focus today on for the Catholics and Orthodoxes.
Yeah, and I think it's really a good read if you haven't gone through DevDiary 20 and you're interested in some of the religious aspects of the game to kind of review. We talked about that. We talked about how you gain faith and how like your religion converted for different provinces and what the effects of that are. A
Yeah.
lot of the high level stuff that are shared amongst all of the religions for the most part. But
Mhm.
today we're diving into a little bit more of the specifics. So we're going to talk about Catholicism and Orthodoxy, two Christian branches. And I think a good thing that and this came up, I actually believe, in the dev stream. We had the conversation about religion, about why we chose just
Mhm.
two. There's so many permutations and whatnot. And that was a very specific decision to limit both. I think on the Islam side, we limited it to two sects, and then on the Christian side, we limited it to two sects. Um, there's some good reasons for that. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about or remind us why we chose just those two.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously considered putting many different branches, but the main thing was for the sake of simplicity and really focusing and nailing down the gameplay on those specific ones. We wanted to keep the pool a little bit smaller, but really flesh them out more, because otherwise we risk to bite more than we can chew. Like there's so many different options we can go for, but
Yeah,
these
exactly.
ones were the ones that were playable in the first game, and we think they really fit with the gameplay of the second one as well because it's so kind of like a continuation from the first game, so it made sense in that way.
I mean, I know I personally wanted to see Flying Spaghetti Monster in there, and I was kind of sad that we didn't get that into the core religions of Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign.
Maybe
Maybe
some DLC, I
some,
don't know.
yeah, yeah, Flying Spaghetti Monster DLC. Or if someone in the mod community makes the Flying Spaghetti Monster religion pack, maybe we can play that on stream at some point down the road.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I mean, and I thought it was really interesting that so many people were excited about different flying ramen monster. I didn't know there was one of those. Maybe it's a swimming ramen monster. I think that it was another thing about trying to add that diversity into the different religions because there's only so many different ways you can slice this gameplay, and
Yes, yes.
we wanted to try to create some uniqueness between them so they have their own personalities, and you can only do that so many different ways without really overcomplicating things.
Absolutely.
So to start with, for Catholics, we'll get the Catholics as a starting. So one of the differences that we called out in the Dev Diary is that they have very unique starting bonuses, kind of right off the bat. They're a very different starting play than the other one.
Yeah, they're. I would say, arguably, they're one of the most user-friendly, like beginner-friendly religions. I wouldn't say that any of the religions are difficult to start with, but the types of bonuses you gain from Catholicism are pretty universal, and they can fit you in the early game quite well. So they have a bonus. I've actually opened the stats bit on my second monitor because there's no chance for remembering them outright. 5 commerce, you gain 5 trade if you're a Catholic nation, which enables you to trade more at the beginning. And you also gain cheaper buildings, which enables you to start constructing things more in the beginning, on top of gaining additional percentage trade. So it's a really nice economic start. You can start off really fast and go into merchants, for example, and trade with other kingdoms.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's one of those kind of like, well, when you think about how the gameplay kind of starts, economy is a really big kind of cornerstone. So
Yeah.
having that economic boost right at the beginning without really having to do anything. I mean, like you said, every religion has a different way to capitalize on its unique advantages. But I think with Catholicism, the advantages are really aligned towards that starting part of the gameplay. So you don't have to really try or position yourself in the beginning. You get that boost to economy. You get the ability to build things a little bit cheaper, and that helps you get rolling right away. Now, obviously, there's some different changes or challenges we're going to talk about a little bit later that kind of evolve as you start playing. It
Yeah,
takes a little bit later.
definitely.
In the beginning,
Yeah.
you kind of get that first boost.
Yeah, it's one of the most, I think, the most fun aspects of religions. Every single one is kind of different to each other, and it shapes your experience from the beginning, as we're going to discuss more with the cleric actions and whatnot.
Yeah, I actually think the economic boost is one of my things that I like the most. Though I think I've said in a previous
Yeah,
stream, I think pagans are my favorite religion to play because the pagan religion has a really, I mean, it's just completely different than all the rest of them. So
it
it's
is.
that uniqueness makes it fun, and
Yeah.
I really like that. But I think I play Catholic a lot because you get that kind of initial early boost, and you're trying to get rolling in the beginning, especially in multiplayer. If you want to like try to like get above the curve at a start, it's a little bit of a gamble because you don't have the legs in the later on game, maybe, but
Hmm.
it can certainly be an advantage there at the start.
Yep.
So the next big aspect I think about the Catholic religion is the papacy, because the papacy is one of their more unique institutions you have to deal with. So I think one of the first things to talk about with the papacy is that like it's something that actually is influenced by, like, I don't want to say players, but it's something that clerics that are on any Catholic religion end up can become a part of, right? So your clerics can become cardinals, and that comes with some bonuses. And then I guess when White Smoke or whatever goes, you could be elected potentially to be the Pope.
Yeah, that's actually one of the latest additions to the Catholic religion we did, because before that, the main way to have the Pope in your court was by bribing a foreign cleric, and then
Hmm.
him becoming the Pope, and then you had some actions through that bribed character. But we decided that it would be even more interesting if you could actually gear up your own clerics if you're a Catholic kingdom and have them become cardinals with the off chance of them becoming the Pope, which is basically, as you said, as it was historically, it's a voting process that happens once the Pope dies, once the current Pope dies. And all of the current cardinals are taken into account, which, as far as I remember, are up to 8 currently. So up to 8 kingdoms
Wow.
can potentially have cardinals which are up for election. And in the beginning of the game, the papacy starts off with like 2 or 3 cardinals in the pool. So even if there's no Catholic kingdoms that rank themselves for becoming owners of clerics that become cardinals, there is always going to be a successor, and you're going to see who the successor might be if you select the papacy. Which is also an interesting thing. You can directly see the contenders, and you can kind of like judge, hey, I could stack up against those guys or not potentially. And
How does Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's fine, it's fine.
So like there's some progression to it then. It's like you have to kind of get your kingdom aligned to be able to get one of your clerics to be cardinal. Is that something that happens automatically, or is that something is it an action that
It
you
is.
like want to?
So it happens automatically. You gain level as you level up your cleric. If he gains more levels, he is more likely to be picked. That's one of the
Mhm.
factors. And the other big factor, even the bigger factor, is that you have to have good relationship with the papacy. So you might want to send a diplomat there. to improve relations, or you might want to send a cleric, which we're going to speak later, because that also improves relationships.
Oh, okay. So there's things you have to do in order to set that up. It's not just something that just happens. So you have to like put effort into
Yeah,
getting one of your clerics potentially like level the cleric up, which means you need good book production, and then you need
yeah,
to do some actions with the papacy to kind of increase your standing, I guess, and get
yeah.
that honor of being a cardinal. And then when you
Hmm.
become a card, if one of your clerics become a cardinal, you get the special actions. I think, correct?
If your cleric becomes a cardinal, he still acts as a normal cleric. When he becomes the
Okay.
pope, he gains special actions. But you do gain effects from that cleric being a cardinal. So you gain passive income to your books and piety. And you also
Okay.
gain some better governing effects and whatnot. So being a cardinal is basically, in many different formulas in the game and calculations, it's ranking up a character, a religious character, if he is a regular cleric, if he is a cardinal, or if he is a patriarch, which we're going to talk about later, and that affects his incomes and passive incomes he gains as well.
I love the by the way, I don't know if you were watching chat, but Yogo Swardian just said that there should be a food worshipping religion, and this leader should be called the Posteriarch. Um, uh,
I
which
approve.
I guess a few other people think is genius. So there's some yeah, we could do some interesting like boost of food production and like you have to like get to be the top of the pasta bowl or whatever. I don't know. There's all sorts of crazy.
Might be a pagan belief or something like that, you know.
The Posteriarch. I love it. All right,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
now, when you when and I actually found it was funny. Someone called us out on the Dev Diary that we called. We said it was black smoke. Black smoke was, I guess, when Pope is not elected. So I guess white smoke is would be the appropriate smoke to blow in our
Yeah, I
game,
guess
so to
it's
speak.
kind of like black smoke. Also, from what I know, is that it shows that the Pope has died. So there's also a sign of like changes happening. Yeah.
Mm. So
By the way,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that one thing I forgot to mention about cardinals is that if you're excommunicated, your cleric cannot become a cardinal, and you cannot succeed
That makes sense.
the papacy. Yeah.
Hi, Trulix97. Welcome to the party. We're talking pasta
Hello, hello.
religion, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy today. So hope you're a fan of pasta. So the other part of this, I think, is that the last part of that progression is when you have a chance for your cardinal to become a pope. Now, when that happens, how does that work? Like, what takes place with your cleric when they get turned into a pope?
So you basically, because you have your cleric and the pope, you basically gain the pope in your court, and you get a big fancy message. Everyone from the Catholic kingdom loves you, etc., etc. And you have this pope in your court who is kind of like a visitor. Like you have special commands with him. You can't use him as a regular cleric. So you gain other interesting actions with him. But in the meantime, he resides in the papacy's court as well. So at any given time, for some reason, you might want to just kick him out of your court. You might say, "Hey, Pope, I just want you to leave from here," which is fine. You can do that. And the clergy will be mad at you, of course, but you can do that if you want to. But if you decide to keep him in the court, there's a bunch of different actions that you gain with him. If people have played the previous game, they will know that you can excommunicate kingdoms. Uh, just to notice that all of the actions by the Pope are not 100% success chances. So you kind of have to still be getting the favor of the papacy. You still have to maintain good relationships, certain skills that your king possesses, and certain attributes to him also matter. So, for example, if he has leadership or theology, he might be more capable of influencing the Pope of doing some other stuff. So apart from excommunications, I guess I can just go through all of the actions briefly and just describe them. You can ask for a crusade, which is my go-to when I have the Pope, because I can just cause havoc everywhere. And that can be done in two ways. One is through a marshal in your court. So you can say that you want to lead a crusade with this marshal specifically,
Oh,
which is
wow.
interesting decision. Yeah, yeah. And the other one is just directly asking the Pope, and then he can just decide who leads the crusade. So if you don't have a great standing with the papacy, but you see that you have a chance of influencing him to start a crusade, you might want to do that through a marshal if you want to really dictate the battles. But if you don't really care for that, he picks whatever crusader is available there. Marshal is available from other Catholic kingdoms. Another interesting option you can perform with the Pope is that you can ask him to grant independence to you. So, for example, if you have a sovereign, if you're a vassal to somebody, you can ask the Pope to grant you independence and stop your vassality.
I see. So kind of like a diplomacy option there. That's like basically the Pope is like interceding for you with them because it's a Catholic. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and that depends not only the relationship of your kingdom with the papacy, but it also works for the relationship of the papacy with the other kingdom. And it kind of matches those two and sees if it's going to succeed or not.
That's
Uh,
cool.
yeah. And I think I'm not forgetting anything else. I think those are the actions you can do with the Pope currently. But
And
they
these you get a
are,
bunch of bonuses to like books and like religion, currency, and whatnot too, right? Of course.
yeah, definitely. And relationship with other Catholic kingdom also increases, and
Right.
it's plays a big
I
part in
imagine
diplomacy.
it would be a bad thing to go to war with the kingdom that is the current pope holder, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's actually it's a factor for declaring war and other diplomatic options. So if a kingdom
Well,
has
so
the Pope in their court,
if you want to declare war on another Catholic kingdom, you're the kingdom with the pope. Is that like the other Catholics don't get mad at you because it's kind of considered a holy war? Is that part of the way?
they're still mad, but you would be more safe from other Catholic kingdoms because you have the Pope in your court, and it also acts as pro and con for different other diplomatic interactions. That it just sees that the Pope is in your court, and then the AI decides what to do according to that.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of complexity right there in trying to figure out when is the right angle to leverage that popiness, I guess, and all the
Yeah,
advantages.
absolutely.
All right, so Gimme Love made a comment, and I have no idea how this would work. So he or she made a comment that inferred that because I don't know if you've read or seen the espionage diary we talked about, but unlike before, spies don't become a member in your court. Like they're not a hidden member anymore; they just can have influence. But what if you were to bribe a cleric, and that cleric gets elected as pope? What would happen then? Is that something that could
Uh,
happen?
Currently, we don't have any special action for that, and one of that is the main reasons why we decided to do the cardinals, because most of the interactions were walked behind the bribing aspect. So you had to bribe a cleric, he became the pope, and then you could do stuff with him. But currently, this is the cardinal gameplay. So if you have the pope in your court by that way, you can do stuff with him. But if you
No, no, I
have
mean,
him
like
bribed, there's no specific.
say I like say you're a Catholic religion, I'm Islamic religion,
Yeah,
and I have a spy that bribes your cleric.
yeah.
Then your cleric gets elected cardinal, and then gets elected pope. Would I have any influence over that person? Because I bribed them when they were a cleric before they went up the tree.
No. Currently, we don't have anything like that. But we might think about something about those ones because it seems like
It's
an
an
interesting option.
interesting. It's an interesting. I hadn't really thought about that because you can't like you're not spies are no longer pretending to be someone in the player's court anymore. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
different from Echelon or 1 to 2. But you do have that action of an espionage player where you can influence or become like to bribe someone, and then you get special actions over that member of the enemy's roll court. So if you were
Yeah,
to
yeah.
bribe a cleric, and then he gets elected to be higher office in the papacy, and maybe even becomes a pope, does that then mean that you've kind of bribed the pope? I don't know. It's a really strange one-off because that'd be like a very like specific set of circumstances. Um,
Actually, what happens right now, if I'm not mistaken, is because we had a few different iterations on what happens if the person you've bribed becomes a character of a big statue, for example, king or the pope. So currently, there is a chance for your spy to be imprisoned and revealed because he owns such a notable character as a bribed character, and
mm,
you run the risk of. For example, you might want to bribe a cardinal and assassinate him because you might be a Catholic kingdom and you want to really be sure that your cardinal is going to be succeeding the Pope and not someone else's. So you might want to bribe
interesting.
another cardinal. But if he becomes the Pope, then your spy might be imprisoned or killed because people will know about that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so we were talking about all of these different actions Pope can do. One of them is talked about quite a bit, which is crusades, because that was a somewhat contentious topic in Knights of Honor 1. There were some positives and negatives. I even saw someone making a comment about in the original game. Yeah, it was Death BGG. How
Hmm.
crusades always fail due to starvation, as they had to travel so long, and why and how crusades are better in the new game. So we don't need to talk a whole bunch about crusades, but it'd be worth maybe like spending a few minutes just talking about how crusades are different.
All right, sure. So just right off the bat, what you mentioned about the food. Currently, Crusade cannot starve from food, so they're good to go for long voyages because usually you're a Catholic kingdom who goes up against a Muslim kingdom, which is really far away. So it wouldn't make sense to really limit you in that way. And once your character is picked to be a crusader, he also gains a really powerful army, which has some special Catholic specific units in
Yeah.
conjunction with the units you have in your own provinces. So it's a big army that is clumped up from those pools of units. So I guess we can start by talking how a crusader is picked. And once again, relationship plays a big role with the papacy. You must be at war with a kingdom that is a valid target for a crusade, and you must own a marshal. So only marshals can be the leaders of crusades. It doesn't matter if he's a king or not. Kings can lead crusades, princes can lead crusades, or normal marshals can lead crusades. But the level does matter. So if you have a higher level marshal, if he has theology as well, those things matter when the Pope picks who to lead a crusade. And if you get decided to pick to lead a crusade, you gain a diplomatic message, which you can decline if you don't want to lead a crusade. So you're not picked automatically. But if you do decline, then your relationship with the papacy and the opinion are angry and stuff like that. And once the crusade starts rolling, it can be a few different types. Basically, it can be against a kingdom, against a Islamic kingdom that maybe you've influenced the Pope or the Pope wants to do it himself. Or it might be, for example, to liberate some holy realms which are predefined in the game. For example,
Mm.
Jerusalem, some areas around there. Those can be provinces that are targeted, and you gain the go of conquering those realms.
Yeah,
Uh,
and crusades have a lot of different aspects too, where it's like when the crusade goes, it's possible for the knight to go rogue. It's possible like form their own kingdom, turn into a rebel. There's a lot of unique elements that are kind of wild cards thrown in Crusade gameplay that make it really kind of interesting to see how it's not just a the Crusade has started, it's going to go run its course. There's a little bit of dynamic um, uh, content that happens around those Crusades. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many outcomes. For example, you never know what would happen as a player. You never know what would happen if the Crusade leader conquers his last province, which is the target, because he might give it back to his kingdom, or he
Hmm.
might declare an independent kingdom in that place. The
I
Crusade
actually had
going
that
rogue.
happen once. This is early development gameplay, but I think one of the first times I got into the Crusade gameplay, my knight got was leading the Crusade, and then all of a sudden I got this random province in the middle of Northern Africa, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what am I gonna do about this? Like, it's so far away. I'm gonna have to build my own I just get a knight out there and like try to defend it, and I'm surrounded by all these other. It's a very unique change of like all of a sudden you have to figure out a different way to deal with that circumstance.
Definitely, and the fact is that the Crusade army is also pretty powerful. So
Yeah,
suddenly you can just end up with a kingdom in faraway lands with a really powerful king marshal who just goes around and wreaks havoc
yeah,
because he
yeah.
retains part of his armies. It's also interesting what happens, for example, if the kingdom of the Crusader is killed, because it could be destroyed while the Crusade is ongoing, which can make him a
Oh,
rebel.
right. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and he basically goes rogue in that time because he has nothing to do. He can become rogue. Also, if the papacy is destroyed as well, because he has no one to command him anymore, he can also go rogue then.
Yeah, gas tax samurai. That's that's a name. I wonder how high is the gas tax. I wonder. The we have a whole bunch of names I think that are pulled from when a new kingdom is formed because there's other logic for forming a new kingdom. Like if a rebel decides to take over a province, they have a chance to random roll and form a new kingdom. I don't think the country is named after himself. I think it's pulled from the pool.
Yeah, no, it's not. For example, if the kingdom is the Ayubids, but the province name is different, it's gonna be the kingdom of the province name he conquered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most common case.
Unless it's like a pasta kingdom. So
I'm sure the Mars can do anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other aspect, so moving away from the Crusades, I think we talked before about strengths and weaknesses. I think one of the last things we're going to talk about here is just the challenges in being a Catholic kingdom. And if you haven't read this, there's a DevDiary talks a little bit about the opinions. I can't remember which one it was, but there's a whole system in the game where there's different opinions for different population groups, like nobles, peasants, the army, and the clergy is one of them, right? And for Catholic nations, that clergy opinion can be a little bit tricky to balance. Actually, yeah, they have a screenshot right now. It's up there on the top left.
Yeah.
You see all the different opinions. So it's a little bit tricky to keep the clergy happy with you.
It is definitely. It's one of the most tricky aspects. As you mentioned earlier, you might think that starting off as a Catholic kingdom is an easy task, but once you get into negotiating with the Pope and making sure you keep him and the opinion group in your kingdom all right, it's a really tough task. Even sometimes when you play multiplayer, we cheer if someone destroys the papacy because we're like, yes, no more suffering. Sometimes it's like that because if you really neglect it, like it's not really extreme in the beginning, but if you do neglect it for a while, your clergy starts dropping more and more and more. You gain more revolt risk, you gain more stability and stuff like that. So many different diplomatic outcomes might reduce your clergy every time your relationship with the Pope declines below certain thresholds.
They're a very needy group. They need money. They need to be taken care of, and they get mad if you don't give them attention. I find that like I often have to use the diplomat with the approve opinions option in order just to kind of balance it out because it's always falling, and you have to kind of like it's tough and you get those bonuses in the beginning because you're neutral, but if you start going negative and the opinion's too bad, you start getting negative effects. So you have to balance out. Like you want to keep them happy, but that takes some focused gameplay. So it's not just like an easy dice roll of like, okay, cool, I'm a Catholic nation, I get all these bonuses. You have to work to keep those bonuses healthy, or it can be kind of a weight.
Yeah, definitely. One of the most common ways to anger your clergy is to actually refuse an offer from the Pope, which is to fund the crusade, because from time to time you gain offers from him saying, "Hey, can you like give me like 10,000 gold or something like that?" It's just a small amount, and you say no,
Right.
and everyone's angry at you.
Yeah, and it's also like that's where it gets to what if you get excommunicated if something really bad happens and they get super pissed at you. That has its own severe set of consequences because then you're a religion, but you get no benefit from it at all, and all the Catholic nations are mad at you. So now it's almost like a double negative.
Yes, definitely. And also, if you're excommunicated, you gain a big penalty to morale as well. So
Oh,
during
right.
battles, your units will not fight as well, and you basically have to find a way of asking the papacy to unexcommunicate you. So again, like gaining their favor and sending diplomats and clerics and relationship and giving them gold, stuff like that.
We do need to move on to the Orthodox. I don't want to. We've talked about Catholics so long. We got to move on. But I did want to mention one last thing, which is Rome, because Rome is a very unique, big deal for the Catholic religion, right?
Absolutely, it's the hub of the papacy, and if Rome does not exist, there's no pope. And if you conquer Rome, no matter what kingdom you are, the whole Catholic world just bunches upon you. Like if it's always fun to open the political view and click on relations and check out who currently owns Rome and just see everyone around them who is Catholic red and angry and waging war against them. So it's a very risky action to perform.
Yeah, I think it's also an opportunity action. If someone takes over Rome and you're trying to get good favor with the Catholic religion, if you go take it over and liberate it and give it back to the papacy, then that's a huge boost to your Catholic bonuses and.
Yeah, definitely. I guess you can influence kingdoms into doing that. So you can demand them to attack a kingdom if you really like each other, and then you demand them to attack the papacy. They conquer the papacy, and then you gain it back, and you're just like the savior of all. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I love all the questions. We're gonna do some questions near the end of the stream, so keep them coming. Um, one question I'm gonna ask as we go. Templar Knight asked, "Do you lose favor with clergy if you make peace with a non-Catholic kingdom if you were at war with?" So, do you like?
For
Is there a peace and war aspect that ties into like it being a Catholic religion kingdom versus a non-Catholic or whatever? Like, do they get mad if you make peace with heathens, basically?
For Catholics, the peace aspect does not work like that. You don't get a negative, but you do get a negative if you declare war on a Catholic kingdom. So
Okay.
the initial declaration angers them. And actually, this event is something that happens for pagans, which we can discuss in a later date. So something like
Hmm.
that happens, but for other religions who are more focused on the battle aspects. But the declaring war on Catholics and gaining negatives because of that is one of the bigger drawbacks of being a Catholic, I think, in the beginning, because most of the time you might have neighbors who are Catholic, so you gotta be really careful with that.
Yeah, yeah. Trulix97, that off-topic question, there actually was a music dev diary that's back there in the history. Talk all about the music of the game. We had our composers on here. I think you'd probably find that really interesting. I believe that stream is back up. We had to take the old streams down from YouTube. We're putting them back up slowly. I don't know if we've gotten back to putting that one back up yet, so I'll double check. But definitely go read the dev diary from Robin and Yannick over at Aldinity for some of the information about the music. If you're curious about the music of Knights of Honor too, I think you'll enjoy that. So let's move on to Orthodox. We have 15 minutes to talk about Orthodox. You have to be a little bit fast. So,
All right.
what is their base?
Well, Orthodox's kingdoms are all about books. So a lot of book production in the beginning, no matter what type of Orthodox church you are, which is really handy if you want to level up your knights fast and early
Yeah,
on.
yeah, for sure.
So even
And
if
books
you
can be
act,
hard to come by in the early game too. So having that book bonus, huge.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah, and I guess talking about the effects of the Orthodoxy is impossible without mentioning the actual different types of Orthodox churches because they basically dictate what types of effects you have. So many of the effects, for example, you might get gold production, you might get piety production, you might get more influence or culture. Those Orthodoxes have a lot of different effects, but they are dependent on what type of church you are. So if you are an independent church which has a patriarch in your court, so that means you're either an autokephali or actually the holder of Constantinople, so you're the ecumenical patriarch. Those kingdoms gain more effects to others which are subordinated and don't have a patriarch. So the lowest tier of patriarch kingdoms, let's say, the weakest ones are the subordinated ones, which have negative morale because they're subordinated and they have less bonuses compared to the ones that do have a patriarch in their courts.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I see the release date question coming again. It always comes this time of year. I guess it comes
Oh,
all the time. Every
took a
stream.
while.
Um, yeah. Today's been a little bit more than normal. I see, like, I should get like a little
All
release
right.
date counter, like little hash marks going up here for how many people
Yeah.
ask it.
Like followers,
Um,
but release date actually.
yeah, yeah. We're not talking about release date today. It's the same. Yeah, Brad's face. Yeah, you can probably tell. I see the release date questions. I'm just like, yep, yep, yep. No, no, no.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine, and we appreciate your excitement. Like we've said in previous streams, and if you're new, welcome for the first time. We love you being here. It's always a challenge because we want to give the game as much time as it can have. So we haven't announced a release date yet. We're showing a lot more gameplay footage now, so I think you guys are all getting a hint that the game is getting further along in development. But we're trying not to rush Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign. We want it to be the best game that it can be, and we're giving it time to mature and giving Georgie and the team, all of them, a good chance. Great game. So I think the next big indicator that we're getting closer to talking about a release plate is when we do show the battle gameplay. The real time battles are very much heavily in development right now, and maybe sometime in the near future we'll be able to show something about them, but we're not quite there yet. So yeah, you'll see more as it becomes available. So, but I wanted to take a second and mention that because I've seen I think
Yep.
like 10 release date questions yet again today. So um, it's all good. It's all good. I understand. I'd be the same way. I completely get it for sure.
Yeah, same
But
here.
as a fan of games, I'm also super happy that we're lucky enough to have that opportunity to let the Black Sea team earn their swag today. The Black Sea team get that time they need to make the best can. When games are rushed, it's always painful. So it's good. It's a good thing. You guys should be happy.
Yep.
So let's the books are a big deal, and I think like different ways that you can get those bonuses can make. I mean, like I know in the beginning you really struggle to get enough books to level up your knights. So having that bonus and figuring out how to kind of maneuver to get more of it is super impactful. So let's talk about the center part of the Orthodox religion, which is the ecumenical patriarchy and having that kind of church setup here. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and explain how that works.
Yeah. So in the beginning of the game, there is, for example, Byzantium might be on the political scene who owns Constantinople, and because they own Constantinople, they're the ecumenical patriarchy. So they have the ecumenical patriarchy in their court. Below them, but also with independent churches, are autokephalies, which are also really powerful kingdoms because they are not dependent on the Orthodox Church that much. And some kingdoms start off as subordinated kingdoms, which do not have patriarchs in their courts, but might become autokephalis by performing an action through their cleric in their court. So these different types of churches, as I said earlier, dictate what kind of effects you have as an Orthodox church, and it's always a goal for you to become an independent church.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
having a patriarch in your court is really powerful. He gains better government effects. A patriarch also converts province religion faster, and he may also gain other effects in different success and fail outcomes on different actions.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's it's a unique mechanic because it's something where you have to have like an experienced cleric and a lot of crown authority. Like it takes some effort to be able to attempt to be that independent church.
Yes, definitely. And the point about Constantinople as well is whoever owns Constantinople has possession of the ecumenical patriarch, let's say it that way.
So
Uh,
freely.
Definitely, yeah, but only if you're Orthodox Church, then you can use him. If you're a non-Orthodox Church, but you have the ecumenical patriarch in your court, you just gain him visual-wise next to your court, but outside of it, and you gain some
Mm.
bonuses from that. But it also is also kind of a negative because other Orthodox churches are not so happy about you owning
Yeah.
Constantinople without being Orthodox.
Yeah, but this is it's a unique difference between the Catholics and the Orthodox. If you are an Orthodox kingdom and you take over Constantinople, the Orthodox people don't get mad at you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
become the new kind of like main head, and you own that, and it's a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's almost like this competition amongst the Orthodox churches to try to get Constantinople and actually get that benefit of that.
There is, yeah, definitely. It's in contrast to conquering Chrome. It's completely different here. The gameplay is
Yeah.
more different here, definitely.
One thing I thought was really cool is also the we talked about this in the Dev Diary. So if you haven't read it, you see the link down there, community.knightsofhonor.com. That's where all of our Dev Diaries are. We have a lot of content out there for you to consume if you want to get excited about the game. So
Yeah.
encourage you to go there and check it out and join the community conversation. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to go to questions. I'm going to grab a number of questions from the diary, which I always do. So that's a good place to get your questions answered. Um, the if you end up trying to create a and I'm going to slaughter the pronunciation of it, but an how do you pronounce it?
I'm not actually sure I'm saying autokephali, but that's my Bulgarian English speaking,
Autocephalous.
so
Yeah,
excuse any words I'm
it's all
mispronouncing as
good.
well.
But if you try to create one of those independent churches, the autokephalious churches, it gets harder the more of them there are. So there's this
Yes.
whole extra kind of like angle of diplomacy where if you're trying to become like the seventh or the eighth, then it's really going to be tough. It may make sense for you to go destroy a couple of them first before you try to kind of like succeed that because it's so much harder to do. Which I thought was very interesting. You may want
Yep.
to either go to war yourself or use diplomacy to get someone to destroy one of those kingdoms. So it just makes your ability to become an independent church better. That's a very interesting angle to the Orthodox gameplay. There is this kind of competition around the independent churches. It's versus cooperative and the Catholic side. It's very competitive and very unique.
Yeah, definitely. You might also there's some plots in espionage as well, which can also achieve that. And in general, this is a really costly action that not only costs a lot of gold but a lot of piety. So you can focus on that early on. Well, there are not a lot of Autocephalous churches, but it might be a gamble because you might fail. You never know, and you've just invested a lot of resources.
So once you get that patriarch, what is the benefits of having a patriarch? Like why do Orthodox players want to pursue this?
It's basically the kingdom religion effects are modified by your state of the church, so you gain more from everything. There's three different tiers: subordinated, autocephalous, and ecumenical. So you gain the most books. You gain some unique effects that are from ecumenicals as well, or autocephalous. So you gain more from everything basically, and you have that patriarch in your court, who is also really powerful too, because when he perishes, you may pick his successor. And every time you pick a successor to the patriarch, different bonuses are rolled for your religion, which can be instant. So, for example, if you appoint a cleric that says you gain +3 crown authority, you gain that instantly.
Oh wow!
That's a stupid actually example. It's not 3; it's like 1 or 2, but you get the point. So you might get instant art, gold, instant crown authority, instant books, but you might also have passive effects that are different for different clerics.
Yeah. By the way, Kings of Honor, who actually I think is Ivory Knight in the forums. I always forget but he said Ottoman cannons cannot melt Byzantine walls. 1453 was an inside job. That's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. I love that. That's funny.
Nice.
Ottoman cannons can't melt Byzantine walls. Come on. Do you know? Don't you know?
Yeah, people in those times must have thought the same, right?
Yeah, right. Oh my
conspiracies
gosh,
going everywhere.
that is hilarious. I love it. That's the best joke.
That's t-shirt material.
Yeah. Oh man, that should be a Knights of Honor 2 t-shirt. I love it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We gotta log that. Write that down somewhere for flag. We'll give Ivory there a little tip of the hat. So one last thing I wanted to talk about before we go into questions. So there is a couple different, and this is again another dev diary talked about this, how aging of the knights work. But I guess with the knights, if you have aging of knights turned off, but one of your knights gets one of the main roles, like a cardinal or a patriarch or whatever, aging turns on for them because they can die, and there's like legacy aspects to it.
Yeah, definitely. Every religious character ages, be it the Pope or a patriarch.
Yeah. I wanted to call that out because there is we have a lot of different gameplay options. You can play your game the way you want to. So if you want aging on for all of the knights, you can turn it on. If you want it only on for kings and religious characters, you can turn it on. But if one of your, if you have the immortal royal court on and one of your royal court members gets elected to one of those roles, they are going to age and then they die and the whole successor, because it breaks the whole game if they don't. You can't have the infinite pope.
This definitely.
He's not on his golden throne, taking souls to keep himself alive for forever, right? If anyone knows that reference.
If that happens, everyone will just straight up send spies and try to assassinate them.
Yeah. Now, the very last mechanic we're going to talk about, and really quick before we go into questions.
All right.
Is about being able to send diplomats and clerics to Constantinople or Rome to get benefits with.
Yeah. Those are specific to Christian churches. So if you have a cleric who is either Catholic or Orthodox, you can send him to Constantinople or Rome. It doesn't matter which religion you are; you can send it to both places. It's a really easy way to occupy your clerics, because sometimes you might not have any provinces to convert. You might not have any provinces in disorder. So you can just send them there, and they gain passive bonuses because of that. And it depends on. The effects depend on your religion and the place you send them. So, for example, if you're a Catholic kingdom and you send your cleric in Constantinople, you gain trade, but you don't get trade if you send him to
Hmm.
Rome. But on the contrary, if you send him to Rome, you gain more piety. So books, piety, and trade, those are three things you gain, and they differ depending on if you send an Orthodox cleric to Rome or Constantinople and vice versa.
Yeah. It's a cool benefit to be able to have that extra bit of like how you influence those, and it kind of
Yeah.
shows that even though they're not the same religion, there's kind of a link between the two Catholic or the two Christian religions. They may not agree, but they also are not so far apart that they can't have a little bit of that interplay. So I think that's
Yeah.
a neat way to tie it together.
Actually, one really important aspect for those actions is that you also increase your relationship with those kingdoms. So
Yeah, yeah,
actually, this is the more efficient way to increase your relationship with the papacy or the owner of Constantinople. It's by sending a cleric.
yeah.
If you send a Catholic cleric into Rome, you gain even more relationship increases passively over time because you have a Catholic multiplier.
So it gives you kind of that extra way to kind of play the diplomatic game if you want to send a cleric to one of those places and then use that bonus to modify some of your diplomat actions. So you're trying to create a defensive pact or an offensive pact with certain people
Yeah,
that are of the religion or of an Orthodox, let's say you're Catholic with an Orthodox group. It allows you to kind of do those bonuses, which is really cool.
absolutely. Or
So,
influence the successorship with the Pope. That's the biggest thing, you know.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's go into some questions. We have some questions from the forums, and then I want to grab some questions from the stream. We got a lot of people chatting today. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, but we got a good 10 minutes. I mean, a little bit more. If my friendly producer Nadine in the background will let us go a little bit long, we'll see how it goes. So the first question I got is from Zerg. And I think we answered this, but I'm going to just grab it real quick. He says,
Mhm.
I just wanted to ask how hard it will be to let one of your clerics become the next pope. And the first game, it was fairly easy. I think we've definitely made that more complicated because you have the different tiers of it. So like we talked about, you have to become a cardinal first, and then there's all the different cardinals, and they're all competing for that slot. So
Yeah,
it's definitely not as easy as it was in Knights of Honor 1. There's a lot more to it.
definitely.
Ivory Knight, who is here talking about melting Byzantine walls, asks, can you explain more clearly how a leader for a crusade is selected? Does leader come from your current world court knights? One of my biggest angers in Knights of Honor 1 was not having control of my marshals and the Pope called them into a crusade, because more often my 5-star marshal would just find a way to suicide. Have you considered this? So I think we talked a little bit about that, but I'll let you see if there's a little bit more clarity you want to add to that question.
Yeah, I guess we kind of answered that. I mean, when you get picked to lead a crusade, you gain a diplomatic message from the Pope, and you can decline that. So if you don't want to risk your marshal, which is oftentimes the case, to be honest, especially if he's a king, although if he is venerable and he's about to die, you might just want to send him, whatever. But if you don't want to send him, you can decline that easily. And the way your knight does get picked is by having high relationship with the Pope and having a marshal who is really beefed up and has good skills, has leadership and stuff like that.
That makes sense. Shoppo from Niners Gaming, who I also saw here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still around, but I know I saw him up in the chat. So he probably still is. It's always Shoppo and Ivy are always here. They're the stalwarts.
Yeah.
Um, he asked a question about Cardinal gameplay, but I think we already answered a lot about the Cardinals, so I'm not going to answer that one. But I
Hmm.
do want to mention that Shoppo was the one who called out us saying white smoke instead of black smoke above the Sistine Chapel. So,
Yeah.
fist bump to you for getting that one right. Good job.
Good catch. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been saying it right all stream, and I would have said it wrong all stream if it hadn't been for you. So I was writing my notes. I highlighted it. It's white smoke when they get elected, not black. So appreciate that reminder. Um, Calliope asked a number of questions. I'm gonna take just one or two. The
Okay.
first one I know is gonna disappoint some people, but it's still a good question to clarify, which is, will Papal States be playable? Are you gonna be able to play as the Papal State?
No, simple answer.
Yeah. There was just
You,
way too much complexity in trying to allow the player to be able to be in that role and then play all those decisions. It was just too complicated. So for
yeah.
maybe if it's something that's super super high in demand, we could look at it for like a DLC or mods can mess with it. But it's the Pope the Rome gameplay is just integrated into so much.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one I'll take, if the Pope owns Rome and another province, but eventually loses Rome, does the papacy still disappear? So basically, if the papacy has taken over another province and they lose Rome, but they still have that other province, what happens to the papacy?
So currently, there is no way for the papacy to expand. They don't expand. They just
Okay.
they are Rome, so you don't really have that case possible, so you can't really do it.
Okay.
As long as Rome is alive and the papacy exists, this is the place where the Pope resides. But we've made sure that something like that can happen right now.
Okay. Cool. So let's go through some questions from the stream. I have my awesome helpers in the background here. I think we have Danielle today, right? I think so. Gathering our questions. So let's see. Beck OVN asked a question, which I think is probably pretty obvious if you watch some of our streams, but I'll answer it anyways. Are any of the gameplay options and choices firmly decided, or are they subject to change? So I think we're still changing quite a bit about the game. There's a lot of evolution. A lot of features have gone through iteration. We're definitely starting to zoom in, so things are not as volatile as they were, say, 6 months ago, or even definitely not a year ago. But we are starting to get some of these starting to narrow down as the game is getting further along in development. That said, I mean, we're going to go through some testing processes. We're actually working on coordinating some of those early, very closed, very private tests now. You may have a chance to participate if you're in our community. You never know. And we will probably do some kind of beta, whether it's closed or open or how we're going to do that. We haven't decided, but from some of that feedback, we'll be making even more changes. So definitely expect that we're going to do our best to refine the game as much as we can.
Yep.
Let's see here. So Richard Owen asked a really easy question to answer. Are real-time battles going to be implemented? Absolutely. The team is working on it right now. They're heavy in development. As many of you guys have probably noted, Knights of Honor as a franchise is more about the strategy and the meta gameplay than it is about the real-time battles. I'd say real-time battles are like 10, maybe 20% of the experience. 80%, not 85% is this grand strategy, epic journey of being a sovereign and exerting your will over the world. But we do have a really cool real-time battle system we're working on. I think you're going to enjoy it. So you'll see more about that. What else we got here? Oh, okay. Death BGG asked a question I don't know the answer to. Can you launch crusades against pagan countries as in the original game? They were always targeted against the Muslims. So is it just Islamic targets for crusades, or is there other targets that could be possible?
Oh man, you kind of caught me there. I haven't tried it in ages, so I'm not really sure if we still have that, because we could at one point, but I usually just go for Muslims. I have to check. I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. Thanks for reminding me.
That actually kind of ties to Beck's question too. There's things that have been that have been true at some point in development have changed. So
Oh yeah, religion has changed so much in our game. It's
changed a
so
lot.
many iterations. Yeah.
We talked about Templar Knights. Question about the peace non-Catholics. Let's go to game. Oh, so Ivory Knight asked a good question, or Kings of Honor. I'm gonna call you both names. World. Do you actually see white smoke in the game over Rome when the Pope dies? I don't think you do right now.
You know what? You don't, but I'm pretty sure it would be really easy to implement. So why not?
That's a bad idea. I kind of like that idea. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
It would be easy to do that. Just have a little bit of, like, if you go over there, you see it like just kind of floating up. That'd be kind of cool. Easy particle effect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We should definitely add that to the list. See, look, we're making changes right now in real time.
That's a really good idea.
Keneal Boy asks, can you create your own cult religion?
You cannot create your own cult religion currently, sadly. The closest thing is like, no, you can't. We don't have that. I mean, you can play as a pagan and you can shape your religion in a way, but we're not going to speak about that because we're going to leave it for a later date. But they're really flexible in the way you can decide what type of pagan you are.
Yeah, we made a lot of unique gameplay around the religions, which is why they're a little bit controlled, in a sense that you have these different things, like with Constantinople for the Orthodox, or even how the pagans work with the way the clerics function, completely different for pagans than anybody else. Like every religion has their own unique gameplay elements around it. But like Trulex97 just said, modders can hopefully go to town and do some really cool stuff. And I'm really hoping to play the Flying Spaghetti Monster mod at one point in time, or the Pastafarians, right? It's the Pastafarians, I think. So like, that's a whole. That is a mod I am expecting to see, and someone gets creative with different unique gameplays around that. Let's see, what other we got here in this latest question? Everyone wants to know about battle footage. Will you show battle footage? Can you tell us when you can expect battle gameplay?
Yeah.
For the battles support blood on the map. We'll talk about battles at some other point in time. I'm not going to grab those questions right now. We're definitely working on them. Some people are asking about how battles work in multiplayer. We actually did talk about that at one point, so I'll answer that question here.
Yeah.
In multiplayer, battles are always going to be simulated. They're not going to be able to play real-time battles in multiplayer. We had to do it that way because we support up to 6 players right now. That's the current plan. And that may change over time. It may grow. We're still trying to refine exactly how many players. It probably won't shrink. I think it'll be at least 6, but it may grow. But the goal with the battles is to make it work. Trying to make the game work in multiplayer with more than 2 people was really just not going to work. It would mean that other players are going to sit there and wait, and battles could take 15 minutes.
10-15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't going to be fun. So for multiplayer, battles are simulated. In single player, you obviously will have the real-time battles, and away you go. We spent a lot of time. You'll even see in some of the videos, like we've changed the battle simulation a lot. It's a lot more. It's a lot deeper than it used to be. There's a lot of really cool visual elements in the simulation. So hopefully you'll like that.
Yeah, I just want to throw in that multiplayer can become really fast-paced when you play with a bunch of people. If you play 6 people together, like you can, even if you're an experienced player, like whenever we play in our amongst our team together, like there's so many different things you must consider. You can't really pause whenever you want. There's some restrictions on that. And even playing in world view kind of feels like a real-time battle. It's ridiculous. It's so many different things that happen.
It does, and that's one thing we can't. Game has to pause when a battle's taking place because the game is real time. Everything moves in time. You can't just like stop it, and you can't let 2 players disappear because they missed diplomatic messages or things. We actually talked about some of that when we were trying to figure out if we could do it, but it's like if you're in a battle, there's other things going on that you have to be able to react to. It just doesn't work so well. It'd actually be a negative, right? You could drop someone into a battle and then do all these diplomatic moves while they're distracted because they can't see the worldview game.
Yeah, you can pause the game in a multiplayer game, but it's kind of restricted to how long you can get it paused, like who can pause it. We have those systems implemented.
Yep. And then let's see. Grab one more question. Good one. Well, really quick, we mentioned this as we've been going. Sickrex asked if there's any mod support. Definitely. We're gonna have mod support. You'll have a lot of the game is built uniquely in a way that allows a lot of data-driven extension to the game, and I think you'll be very happy with how much mod support you'll be able to mess with it with very little effort. There's a lot of stuff there.
Chat is pretty active. I love it.
Yeah, chat's having fun. Mods are life. Mods are a lot of fun. I want to see Pastafarian. Let's grab this one question. I think DeathBGG asks, and this is a good one. Can we talk about AI of the armies, and can we expect a better AI in the new game? It's very important.
It's actually we're currently playing a build where a lot of our colleagues were like, "Oh my god, the AI is kicking my butt!" It's actually really surprising, like especially at the beginning. It can be really difficult. I mean, we modify different aspects of it. There's going to be difficulty options as well, but in the current state you can expect a pretty difficult AI in terms of really like getting a good sense of the enemy marshals, figuring out where your armies are if they have a chance to win against you, like not always going into suicide battles, sometimes even flanking you, like deciding to wait within their borders where they can fight with better morale. So those stuff we're adding, but it's going to be, I think from what I'm seeing currently, it's going to be really interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure. We're spending a lot of time on iterating on it, and it's in different layers, right? Because like we said before, the worldview gameplay plays like is all in real time. You're moving armies around, you're fighting them. I know some people are talking about the real time battles a lot, but I mean the worldview map, there's a lot going on, and you are ordering your armies around and maneuvering them around the map. It is kind of like a meta RTS. It really feels that way. even with how you position armies, where like I've had a lot of games where armies are moving towards a city and you're kind of like walking them around and trying to maneuver them. So there's a lot of positional gameplay and kind of like maneuvering of different sizes of armies and like where
Yep.
you're staging your armies. It's a big part of it. So that AI even react. I've had situations where like the AI will start marching towards a city, and then you'll have like two armies come out of the fog of war, so to speak, and you'll see
Yeah.
AI be like, "Nope," and then turn around and walk away, and then they'll come with two armies back, and so you have this like
Yeah.
tug of war going on in the worldview map with the different armies that are that is it's very dynamic, and we're continuing to massage that and iterate on it. So I think people are going to be surprised at just how much the worldview feels like you are definitely maneuvering and playing with these armies. It's not
Yeah.
it's not like moving pieces on a chessboard. It's very real time. It is very
Yeah.
real time, and
Very
positioning
reactive.
definitely matters. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Everyone, I hope you had a good time. It's been a very active stream today. A lot of cool chatting. I think everyone liked the religious conversation. We'll have an awesome new stream for you guys in about 4 or so weeks. And we hope you guys join us on our community site, community.knightsofhonor.com. We also have Discord. We have Facebook. Wherever you want to get plugged in, we welcome you to join the conversation. Until then, Georgie, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all the questions and for being so hyped as we are. It's been amazing. So see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Really appreciate it.